Good evening, everyone. This is Indra. Today, we are going to discuss on the topic constitutional federalism in relation to the Union territories under the Article 239A. Here we have Mr. Nirmal Kumar Mohandas as a speaker of the webinar. He is an practicing advocate in the High Court of Madras and also other subordinate courts in Chennai. Sir holds a master degree in labor and administrative law, and he also published several articles and also is an alumni in the School of Excellence. And Sir also drafted several national moot court problems in prestigious law schools. Sir, the now session is over to you, sir.
Thank you, Indra, for having me here.
Yes, sir.
The concept I'll be dealing with is constitutional federalism in relation to union territories with legislature under the constitution. So now the concept of federation. A federation is a political system where a written constitution provides for two sets of governments, one at the center and the other at the region, and that constitution divides the powers between the authorities of the central government and authorities of the state government, regional governments. This is called the federation under politics. So now applying this to the Indian constitution setup, we have a federal case in India. That is, constitution is split into various parts. Part 5 particularly provides officers and authorities of the central government under the title the Union, and Part 6 entitled the States establishes various offices and authorities like the governor, the council of ministers headed by the chief minister, the legislature, etc. Now under Part 5 and Part 6 respectively, we have different authorities established at the central level and at the state level. Now if you move on to Schedule 7 of the Constitution, Schedule 7 consists of three different lists: the union list, the state list, and the concurrent list. So each of these lists consists of a number of subjects. Each of for example, the subjects that are mentioned under central list or those powers that can be exercised by the union executive and the union parliament. Likewise, the ones under state list, those subjects are exercised, the powers under those subjects are exercised, subject matter to be dealt with by the state government and the state legislature. So there is clearly a separation, a division of powers between authorities in the union and authorities in the state. Therefore, in India, we have a federal setup. But different political analysts and political experts give different names to this federation. Some call it quasi-federal constitution because a large number of powers are given to the central government, and in several circumstances, even the powers of the state government under the governor, under the legislature, can be taken over by those at the union, like the president and prime minister. Federal setup. Now, given this, if you take Schedule 1 of the Constitution, Schedule 1 divides the entire Indian territory, the boundary, the entire territory of India, and is split into various states. So these states have different authorities established as mentioned under Part 6 and under various other provisions of the Constitution, and their powers are clearly demarcated under Schedule 7. But with respect to these states, the position is very clear. Those powers as provided under the union list under Schedule 7 are exercised by the president, who is otherwise following the advice of the council of ministers headed by the prime minister, and the legislative powers are in the parliament. With respect to the state subjects under the state list in Schedule 7, those powers are exercised by the executive and the legislature of the state as established under Part 6 of the Constitution. Now, there are some peculiar territories where there is no division of powers between the central government and the regional government. These are called union territories, and the list of union territories are provided under Schedule 1 to the Constitution. Now, if you take Article 1 states that India is a union of states. So, in essence, it's a union of various states. Various states come together and form the union. But it also includes under Clause 2 certain regions called the union territories, where there is no division of powers. There are no MLAs, no legislature, and authorities under Part 6 are not available with respect to union territories, which means there is no governor, there is no legislature, consequently no council of ministers headed by the chief minister. So these are union territories, and the provisions relating to union territories are provided under Part 8. Is my screen shared?
No, sir.
You're able to see the PowerPoint now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The concept of union territories under Constitution is provided under Part 8. Part 8 is a very simple part which has very few provisions, unlike the Part 6, which provides for various authorities under the caption state. So Part 8, Article 238. Article 239 of the Constitution very clearly states that the union territory is administered by the president through an administrator. So as you all know, president in India is a nominal head. So under Article 74, president is bound by the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers headed by the Prime Minister. So it's very clear that the central government has its agents in the union territories, and such agents are called administrators. But there is now a new concept called union territories with legislature. These are provided under Article 239 capital A. The Constitution, instead of directly providing for a legislature and executive for certain union territories, what it does is it enables the parliament to establish legislature and the executive with respect to certain union territories. So under 239 capital A, Parliament may enact a law providing for legislature and executive for union territories. It is only when such authorities are established under 239 capital A, then the problem arises. The confusion is when certain authorities and offices are established for union territories under Article 239 capital A. Is the power of the administrator, who is otherwise known as the Lieutenant Governor, restricted against the powers given to the various other authorities? Or even if such authorities are provided with certain powers under the enactment, the Lieutenant Governor can override all the powers and do whatever he or she wishes, because 239 clearly says that President administers the union territory through administrator. So this is the peculiar case with respect to union territories with legislature. Right now in India, there are only two union territories with legislature. One is the National Capital Territory of Delhi, and the other is Pondicherry. But there is a distinction between Pondicherry and Delhi. With respect to Pondicherry, it is a union territory under 239 capital A. But with respect to Delhi, the Constitution itself provides for various offices like the Council of Ministers and the Chief Minister explicitly under Article 239 capital A capital A. So division of powers between the Union and the Council of Ministers of the National Capital Territory of Delhi provided directly under the Constitution. Therefore, Parliament has no powers to meddle with such powers provided in the Constitution directly. Even provisions with respect to Delhi are clear under 239 capital A capital A. Now, the peculiar case of 239 capital A is that originally there were about 7 union territories placed under 239 capital A. Government of Union Territories Act 1962 was enacted in 1962. This establishes the office of Council of Ministers headed by a chief minister to aid and advise the administrator, who is otherwise known as the lieutenant governor. The various other enactments that are relevant, various other laws that are relevant to the concept of union territories legislature are, as already mentioned, Article 239 capital A, which empowers the parliament to establish a legislature and executive for union territories. That is clear. So, the Parliament enacts Government of Union Territories Act 1962. It divides powers between various authorities, creates and establishes various authorities of the Union Territories. And then you have the Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act 2019, which is a Parliament enactment converting Jammu and Kashmir territory into a union territory from that of state. But right now, no other enactment establishes the legislature and executive. Therefore, Jammu and Kashmir right now doesn't have any legislature or executive, unlike Pondicherry. And then you have the Pondicherry Administration Act of 1962, which is relevant. And the Rules of Business of Government of Pondicherry Rules, 1963. These are the relevant laws for today's concept. Now, comparing the powers between states and union territories with legislature. You take part 6. Part 6 provides for various offices, as I have already stated. The governor. What is the position of the governor? What is the position of the Council of Ministers headed by the Chief Minister? Who advises whom? What is a legislature composed of? What is the qualification of a particular of a person, of an individual to become a member of the legislature, that is MLA? All this is provided under Part 6. Now, just reflecting on the Government of Union Territories Act 1962, the Act is nothing but a copy-paste, a direct reflection of Part 6 of the Constitution, but subject to certain exceptions. If you compare, Article 163 of the Constitution says that there shall be a Council of Ministers headed by the Chief Minister to aid and advise the governor, who shall act according to such advice. There is an exact identical provision under the Government of Union Territories Act under Section 44. It also says that the UT shall have a Council of Ministers headed by the Chief Minister, who shall aid and advise the administrator, who is otherwise called the Lieutenant Governor. Similarly, several other provisions under Part 6 are available under the Act also. For instance, the emergency powers, the declaration of state emergency under Article 356. That is where an emergency situation arises, the governor advises the president to declare emergency, and consequently the state legislature is suspended. All these provision is identical to sections 51 and 52 of the Act. Similarly, if you see Article 167, it lays down the powers of the governor with respect to the chief minister and other officers. That is, the chief minister acts as a bridge between the Council of Ministers, the legislature, and the governor. That is, the governor can anytime call the chief minister to provide for any papers, any materials that he wants to know, any information that he wants to know from chief minister. He can directly call up the chief minister and ask him to come to his office and get the knowledge, get such knowledge. Similar provisions are available under Rule 21 Clause 5 of the Rules of Business of Government of Pondicherry Rules 1963. Now, what is the problem? What is the exception? If you see the exception, can someone tell me that there is an office established under the constitution with respect to states, that office, that individual who sits in that office is equivalent to a minister who can speak and participate in the legislative proceedings. But the only difference is that he cannot vote in the legislature. Is someone aware of the office? Someone can unmute and tell me. Okay, I will tell you. The office of Advocate General. For instance, Article 165 of the Constitution establishes the office of the Advocate General. He is nothing but the legal advisor, in a sense, of the state government. Whenever a legal problem arises and the government or the governor needs some advice, legal advice, then he can take resort to the office of the Advocate General. He represents the state, the government in the constitutional courts. But this office in particular is not provided under the Government of Union Territories Act. Now, earlier na sonna mari, the Government of Union Territories Act is just a copy paste of various provisions of Part 6. There is one confusion. Whenever there is an exception provided in the Government of Union Territories Act, then it cannot act similar or identical with respect to the states. I will move on to that exception. But there is another circumstance where a provision under Part 6 is not available in the Act itself. Some such provisions are the exceptions that I would like to mention. For instance, Articles 165 and 177 in relation to Advocate General for the state is not available under the Government of Union Territories Act 1962. Therefore, there is no office of Advocate General for a union territory with legislature. Likewise, the another very major difficulty faced by union territories with legislature is with respect to the funds of the union and the states. Now we have Article 280 establishing the Finance Commission. What does the Finance Commission do? It reads the various receipts of the union government. It also formulates policies wherein certain funds are distributed among the states. But the Article 280 specifically uses the word states and doesn't use the word union territories. Therefore, that provision can only apply to states and not to the union territories. The problem is no such similar or identical provision is available under the Government of Union Territories Act. Now you can ask me what the problem is. When you are a state, the Finance Commission provides for these percentage of receipts should be distributed to the states. But what about union territories? The Finance Commission cannot recommend to the central government to divert funds to the union territory. It can only divert funds to the states. But the problem is, if you take up the liabilities of the state, that is where finance of the state is collected and received by the union and then split, like for example the GST Act, under the definition for state, it says that state includes union territory with legislature. Therefore, GST Council also includes union territory of Pondicherry. So when states participate in a GST Council meeting and the revenue of a state is appropriated and then distributed, in such process, Pondicherry is a part. That is taking my money and then distributing it to myself. In that process, I am a part. But where I need to receive money from the central government, that is on Finance Commission recommendation, I am not a part. Provision, you won't give money to me. This is a peculiar situation that Pondicherry faces. But there is an exception. Now, under the Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act 2019, it specifically provides that the provision under Article 280 is applicable to Kashmir. This is not available under the Government of Union Territories Act. Therefore, any union territory where legislature or executive is established under the Act cannot claim benefit under Article 280, that is Finance Commission recommendation. And one more exception is that you know about the election of the president and the vice president. President is elected by the electoral college, consisting of members of legislative assemblies of states and members of parliament. Now, the word used is specific, members of legislative assembly of states. the constitution doesn't provide for legislature to the union territory. Only the Government of Union Territories Act provides. So now the peculiar situation arises whether MLAs of Pondicherry legislature, are they part of the electoral college which appoints the president? The situation is peculiar because the presidential election is indirect. Representatives of the people join together and elect the president. Now, where there is a legislature for union territory, people have their own representatives, that is MLAs. Are they empowered or enabled to elect the president as a part of the electoral college? Constitution provides for an exception under Article 54. Article 54 under explanation, it specifically provides that MLAs include MLAs of union territories with legislature. This is one more exception. And there is a peculiar case where this is the contrast, the deliberate contrast between a state setup and a union territory setup. That is Section 50 of the Government of Union Territories Act 1962. This provision very clearly puts the office of the Lieutenant Governor, that is the administrator, and the Council of Ministers headed by the Chief Minister under direct supervision and control of the union government. So whatever you do, if the union government provides for a particular direction, you will have to obey. Whereas this provision is not applicable with respect to states. When the powers are demarcated between the center and the state, powers of the states can be exercised only by the state authorities. Central government cannot interfere into the powers of the state government. But with respect to union territories with legislature, Section 50 of the Government of Union Territories Act 1962 specifically and particularly states that the office of Council of Ministers headed by the Chief Minister and the Administrator are directly under the control and supervision of the central government. So whatever you do, whatever power you exercise, if the central government wishes to interfere directly, they can directly interfere under this provision. Now, the inconsistencies that are peculiar to union territories with legislature are many. For instance, 239 is very clear. There is no division of powers, no state legislature, executive. There is only one authority, who is nothing but the administrator. Administrator is the agent of the president. And you know, president is the agent of the central government. The Council of Ministers said it for the prime minister. But 239 capital A provides for certain offices. So when an office of MLA is provided and the MLA exercises some powers, can administrator or the lieutenant governor directly interfere and state, no, I can directly supersede you, because 239 says that the union territory is administered by the administrator who is in nature of the president. Can he do that? If he does that, what is the problem? The problem is various authorities are established under the Act. The Act is numerous provisions are provided under the Act. Several authorities are established. Each of them have different duties to perform. And election, as a matter of fact, is conducted. And while contesting elections, different political parties provide different promises to the people. So the people get to elect someone whom they think can do justice to their needs. So when election takes place in Pondicherry or in any other legislature with union territory with legislature, parties give certain promises. We look into the promises and we go vote for a particular party or a particular candidate and make them win. They, on the other hand, are our representatives. They reflect our mood in the legislature. But after all this happens, after the election happens, I vote for a particular person, that person wins the elections, he forms the government, he cannot perform any of his promises if the lieutenant governor tries to interfere. The problem is even more intensified when the central government is headed by a different political party and the union territory with legislature is headed by a different political party. For instance, now we have BJP at the center and Congress at the Pondicherry. Now, the government at Pondicherry has given various promises, but can they exercise their powers to fulfill all these promises? Obviously, they cannot. Because if the lieutenant governor chooses to interfere every time, then he or she can dismantle all the powers provided under the various provisions of the statute. But now here is where you have to demarcate. So there is a direct conflict between the provision of 239 and 239 capital A. 239 capital A says that a legislature can be established and the powers can be demarcated under the Act. So the Act provides for an office. It says Lieutenant Governor has to act in aid and advice of the Council of Ministers. But 239 doesn't contemplate such a provision. Now what happens? This is where you will have to harmoniously construct. In principles of interpretation of statutes, you have various principles, one of which is harmonious interpretation, where there are two provisions which are directly inconsistent and two different interpretations are possible. What we should do is one interpretation which can enable both provisions to act together, that interpretation should be given effect to. In other words, you know that where generalia specialibus non-derogant, that means where a general provision is available and where a specific special provision is available dealing with same subject matter, then where there is inconsistency, the special provision should be taken as an exception to the general provision. That is, Article 239 may say that the Union Territory is administrated by the administrator, the President through the administrator. But where a legislature has been created under Article 239 capital A and the power is delimited with respect to the administrator, then it acts as an exception to 239. So where there is a legislature established, then powers under the Government of Union Territories Act alone exists. For instance, the parliament may choose to do away with a legislature under the Government of Union Territories Act for Pondicherry. In such case, then there need not be MLAs. But when when a legislature is established, then the powers given to that legislature under the Act prevails over the general provision under Article 239. More so, a peculiar provision is available under Proviso to Article 40. Article 240. Article 240 gives President to do whatever he wants when there's a law and order problem and such similar problems, similar circumstances. But Proviso to Article 240 specifically states that when a legislature is established under Article 239A with respect to a union territory, then power of the President under 240 ceases to exist when the legislature is in session. So therefore, even if 240 says that President can do whatever he wants in a particular situation with respect to union territories, when there is a legislature established under 239 capital A and that legislature is in session, President cannot exercise his power. So this makes it amply clear that when a legislature is established, then powers under the Government of Union Territories Act alone can be taken into account, and the governor or the administrator cannot interfere with each and every power of the local government. Another problem is with respect to nominated MLAs. The Government of Union Territories Act peculiarly provides that the legislature of the Pondicherry shall consist of 3 seats to which MLAs can be nominated by the President. Now, as you know, President acts in accordance to the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers headed by the Prime Minister. Who nominates the MLAs? These MLAs, whether the central government nominates or the government of the Pondicherry territorial government nominates. This is a problem. As a matter of fact, at a very large number of duration, there were no nominated MLAs. But whenever nominated MLAs were, the seats were filled, it is the contention of the territorial administration that they recommended their names to the central government, and those names were, those MLAs were nominated. A peculiar situation arose in 2018 where the Lieutenant Governor, she recommended names for these MLAs to central government and they were nominated. There was a litigation before the Madras High Court. The union the territorial government, Pondicherry government, went to the Madras High Court and said that though the President nominates those 3 seats in the Pondicherry legislature, recommendation is given only by the Pondicherry government and not by the Lieutenant Governor. Lieutenant Governor therefore has no powers to recommend any names to be nominated as MLAs. Union government cannot act without the advice of the government in Pondicherry.
Sir,
There was a strict verdict. Yes,
sorry
yes.
to interrupt, sir. Only 5 minutes more, sir.
Okay. I will wind up. Madras High Court gave a finding that with respect to nominated MLAs, there is no established procedure. There is no convention. Therefore, when the provision says president shall nominated, it can only mean president. So, even if the election is conducted with respect to the legislature at Pondicherry, there can be 3 MLAs who are not elected by the people of Pondicherry but directly nominated by the central government. And when I mean central government, the names are recommended by the Lieutenant Governor. But now there is some hypocrisy from the Pondicherry government as well. Every time something happens and the Lieutenant Governor interferes with the powers of the Pondicherry government, these people decry. But with respect to powers exercised by the states, whenever a parliamentary statute provides a particular power to the states, the Pondicherry government has always exercised such powers. For example, establishment of the Labour Court and Industrial Tribunal under Industrial Disputes Act. The Act under Section 7 and 7 capital A provides that state government shall establish Labour Court and Industrial Tribunal. And similarly, the provision under Consumer Protection Act, state government shall establish State Consumer Commission. Such commissions and labor court are established by the Pondicherry government. Whenever the word state is used in these statutes, Pondicherry government has exercised such powers. But whenever there is no power, but when the power comes along with responsibilities or liabilities, Pondicherry government says that no, we are not state, we are only union territories, therefore we cannot exercise the therefore we are not responsible or liable under a particular statute provided for state. For example, Right to Information Act provides for establishment of State Information Commission. It is before this Information Commission, you lodge complaint whenever a particular information which should have been given that the act to the citizen is not provided. But though Pondicherry has established several undertakings, government institutions, and various other authorities who are directly funded and controlled by the Pondicherry government. With respect to these authorities, there is no Pondicherry State Information Commission to look into and execute the provisions of the Right to Information Act. When I challenged this before the Madras High Court, Pondicherry government filed an affidavit saying that the Right to Information Act only speaks of state. Since Pondicherry is not a state, I am not liable or responsible to establish a state information commission. Similarly, Lokpal and Lok Ayuktas Act, Section 63 specifically provides for establishment of Lok Ayuktas to deal with complaints with respect to public officers like the Chief Minister and MLAs. But Pondicherry has still now, after some 4 years, still now not established Lokpal and Lok Ayuktas Act, established a Lok Ayukta under Section 63 of the Act to keep themselves and their authorities under check through the Lok Ayukta. But specifically the problem arises that whenever I have a complaint against an administrator in other union territory, I can directly go to the Lokpal under Section 3. But when an MLA, office of an MLA is established under the Government of Union Territories Act, and I want to lodge a complaint against that MLA, I cannot lodge before Lokpal because Lokpal doesn't accept applications or complaints with respect to an MLA. But so therefore, the only logical conclusion is that Lok Ayukta should be provided under Section 63 of the Lokpal and Lok Ayuktas Act with respect to union territories with the legislature. But they have always stated that they are only union territories and therefore they are not liable to establish one. This is the hypocrisy with respect to Pondicherry. So now getting to the solutions. So whenever such confusion arises, whether this particular power has to be exercised by the Lieutenant Governor as an agent of the President or by the Chief Minister as a representative of the people, there is always confusion with respect to the specific provisions. So what we can do is, we can amend General Clauses Act 1897. This act provides for definition of state and state governments. So we can amend that provision and include that state includes union territories with legislature, like the GST Act. And the state government, definition of state government should include state government of the union territories with legislature. Similarly, Part 8 should be specifically amended, saying that whenever, like the proviso of Article 240 that I mentioned, whenever a legislature and the executive is established under Article 239 capital A, 239 ceases to exist. Power of the Lieutenant Governor should be limited only with respect to the provision under the Act. Now there is a loophole. Section 50 says that if the president wants to interfere, the central government can interfere. So provision is already available within the statute itself. So we can delimit the power of the Lieutenant Governor. The confusion between the exercising of powers between the Lieutenant Governor and the Council of Ministers, headed by the Chief Minister, in the union territories with legislature can be definitely delimited. Similarly, whenever a parliamentary statute provides for establishment of a particular office and it defines state or state government, such definitions should include union territories with legislature like the GST Act. So this is a solution that I provide for the various inconsistencies and the confusions that arise to the peculiar circumstances where union territories have legislature under Article 239 capital A. So my presentation is over. If anybody has any doubt, you can ask.
Guys, anyone having any doubt?
What I will do is I have a couple of articles. Indrapriya, you can give me your email ID. I will email those articles. You can share them among the participants.
Okay, sir.
If they want any clarification, they can read those articles.
Okay, sir. I will share them.
Okay.
Thank you for spending a valuable time to take this webinar, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much, Indrapriya, for having me here. And I should also especially thank the participants who have willingly spared their time during the weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.